I'm going to kind of go over some ideas for the assignment number 3 for ergonomics. The instructions are pretty clear, I think, for this, but what I highly recommend you do is you take all the measurements on someone else. Do not do this at home on your own computer. Like, even if you're unemployed or just being a student or whatever, find somebody else to do this at. Like, surely you probably know someone in your community that's working now in person. Go to their office and take some pictures of them working with measurements. And how I like it, there's 2 ways of doing the pictures. Is either put the pictures right in the area you discussed and put figure 1 underneath the picture, or put all the pictures in the appendix. And as you write the document, refer to like figure 1 or appendix A or whatever, figure 1 in appendix A kind of thing. And that'll make things a lot easier. So like if we take it from my point of view, so what have you done in the course up to now? Like one of the discussions was about measuring people, right? So it would make sense to measure another person to see where they are on the curve. So how tall are they? Describe general body feature. Like I don't need a photo of the person, but like, are they very big? Are they small? Do they have unusual like someone 6 feet tall might have a very long torso and very short legs, or very long legs and very short torso, like something different, right? So some of those measurements really can be like quick to do, and then when if you're looking at the chart that's in the textbook, you can easily see if they're falling in the distribution range. So that's something I would do. Obviously it's part of the course. Also, imagine I had no exposure to ergonomics. And quite honestly, before I went into safety, you hear about ergonomics. Oh, it's an ergonomic chair. It's an ergonomic whatever, right? And you're like, oh, what is that kind of? Like you assume it's better to use or whatever, but most people won't know that. So in the introduction, describe kind of what ergonomics is and how it relates to this assignment. And then go into the human work system. So answering questions, like describe the worker, like I said, like it's way easier to measure somebody else than measure yourself, right? Like just, it's much, much easier that way. So then describe what tasks they do. So all this is in the marking rubric. So what kind of data was collected, how you collected it. So things I would talk about is like, for me, I think the best is like you describe the worker, describe the tasks, what they're doing in this part for full marks. The environment, is the environment really hot or is it cold or a normal ambient temperature for an office? I know I worked at a factory and I was next to the blast furnace, and my office was normally like 40 above. So it was kind of a note. What kind of environment is it? Is it loud? Is it dirty? Like everyone's office is going to be a bit different. Most people are going to have like a clean, normal, probably office, but if you guys are doing this at a factory, I'm sure it can vary quite a bit. Work structure. What do they do all day? Do they work shifts? Are they working 12-hour days? Are they 8-hour days? Or random? They mostly don't work at their desk and they only go there to answer emails or what? So what measurements were taken? More pictures for this assignment is kind of the better, I found. Like when I did this assignment when I was a student, I remember I kind of regretted not taking more pictures because afterwards you can kind of measure the angles. So again, if you don't know how to do some of that stuff, I think I've did it in the other assignment, but file, new blank document. You just go into insert pictures from this device. There's a bunch of different ways you can easily add photos onto your computer. If you can upload it, if you use Apple products or Google products, you can log in to the website and you can download those pictures onto your desktop. So that's one off your phone. So that would cover like 95% of people. If not, there's other easy ways of doing it. One thing I used to do is sometimes is just upload photos to like a friend on Facebook, and they'd be like, what the hell are you sending me this stuff for? And then I would just rip it off Facebook really quickly because I've had some pretty bad work computers, and that using the website was actually a lot easier doing that as well. But I think most people now with Apple or Google products, if you haven't ever uploaded your things to the cloud, that is one way of doing it. Where, like I said, if you don't upload your photos to the cloud, you can upload them onto Facebook for an easy transfer onto your desktop as well. So that's one way. Just going through, what are the angles? How is the environment being used? Then I would do the optics ergonomics sheet. We'll go through it with the person, measure all the distances, see how it goes. Again, for short-term and long-term recommendations, I'm probably the most picky about this of all the instructors, but I'm trying to prepare you for like jobs. So if you're going to make a recommendation of like, let's buy a footrest, find the footrest and tell me how much it costs, right? Like, and then just put that in the references, because like, if you're going to write a report and say there's a problem and this is my solution, tell me how much it costs, like, or how feasible the solution is. Like, if I'm the supervisor or plant manager and you're telling me we need to buy new desks, like, tell me how much the new desk is. Like, which one are you looking at buying? And then I'm more likely to say yes or no than me go off and do my own research. Like, am I not paying you to be the health and safety person at the company that is doing research on ergonomics, right? So like, kind of seal the deal here. Like, if you make a recommendation, throw out what it is, how much it costs, and then put the reference in the references, right? That's kind of what I think is pretty good. Even like chairs, like, if you find a chair, the person you do the thing on, the chair is really old and has lots of issues. Well, what's reasonable here? I was like, if you recommend a $5,000 chair and it's like in a factory and the chair is going to get wrecked in like 6 weeks, that's not really reasonable, right? So like, what's a practical solution? What's a reasonable amount of money to pay for this? Keep in mind, like, even building desks, like, that's not free. Like, people are, oh, the maintenance person is going to do this. Like, so you kind of have to go like, how long will it take the maintenance person to put the chair together? And what's the loaded cost of a maintenance person? And all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to like intimidate you with all that, but a lot of companies with reports, they kind of want to estimate it. Like, yeah, it'll take half an hour per chair and we're buying 50 chairs. You do the math. The loaded cost of a maintenance person is $100 per hour. So, and then it might actually be, if there's a lot of maintenance to do, it's actually cheaper to have the chair company build the chairs for you than have somebody like the janitor do it if they have other tasks to do, right? So those are things that sometimes like separate the like pretty good papers from the amazing ones, right? So you're trying to like get into that amazing category and get the 90s in these kind of courses. Is fine, you made a recommendation like, we need a new chair. Well, tell me which one you want to buy. You can include a picture in it in the appendix, right? And say like, this is how this one will meet our needs and is a reasonable price and has good reviews, right? So those are kind of the things that like we should be looking at. Or if you're looking at it, getting a stand, like, how much is this going to cost? I mean, most organizations that I've worked for anyway, if you said, yeah, like we should buy ergonomic desks, they're going to be like, cool. And then you're like, well, each one's $5,000. Like, the response is going to be kind of a lot different than what you probably would want it to be. So that's kind of some ideas I have really quickly about this. Make sure you do a good job on filling out the form. There's tons of different forms online. I would try and go with one with quite a few measurements, because then you can kind of see that. Use the textbook too as a reference, being like, hey, this guy's kind of outlier in the population. Like, so buying him a chair is going to be expensive. One thing I would say though is, then you could look up how much the average back injury, ergonomic injury is. So if somebody's like, yeah, like he needs a supersized chair, but it'll save like a disability claim because he can't hardly walk already because the chair is so uncomfortable. You know, there's a lot of proof there in your recommendation that it's a good recommendation. I'm going to include another video on that I made about recommendations, because I generally find them not great in the programs. And if I was the supervisor at a company, so I hand the stuff in, I'd be like, and now what do we want to do? And that's not what you want to do, right? Like you want to have a concrete plan and what your plan is for these assignments. So a little bit waffling, a little bit rambling. Hopefully those are some ideas that you can take away. So yeah, like what, describe the work system, describe the tasks the person does there, describe the work situation, describe the environment, describe the work structure. So like, what do they do? Like, when do they take breaks? Like, do they do stretching? Like all those kind of things. If you didn't see in the news, I did post a thing about stretching. So that's a thing you guys could kind of discuss in that too for recommendations. I don't mind you stealing that idea. Do not reference me or the course for that. Like find a different stretching program online. Like that's what Google's for, right? Like very quickly, like let's just be fun here for 1 second. So stretching program from industrial workers. Well, lo and behold, there you go. Like the Swedish one, sure, it's pretty good. But if you take a look, there's like, it doesn't take long, right? So can find research paper, see if it's credible, how long ago it was, and then see what the explanation is. I'm not just randomly pulling, but like Google's actually pretty good at pulling ones that are the most relevant that people have used in the past. Yeah, so if you take a look, tons of different ones, right? So if you take a look at this, you've never been involved that, OSHA, which you can just visit this website and it'll tell you exactly what you need for a stretching program, right? For chairs and all that kind of stuff. So those are some ideas that might be outside the box, or like I worked at a company where they implemented a stretching program. It was awesome. I got an arm injury and my arm recovered quite quickly. So I'm kind of hinting that maybe researching a stretching program would be good. And the other thing is instead of having like toolbox meetings where people are just standing there, you can do the stretches really quick and then read the sheet while they're doing the stretches. And you're like, well, how do they remember the stretches? Well, after 3 or 4 weeks doing the same stretches in the same order all the time, it works pretty well. And actually, I found most workers, there's pretty good buy-in for stretching programs. But you don't have to quote me. That's what there's actual reputable organizations for that. Hopefully that was beneficial. I felt like I rambled a lot.
This is gonna be the best looking bike in the block. I don't feel so good.
Hey, Ezra, don't you know you're not supposed to use spray paints without lots of fresh air?
Dial tone.
All paints, and especially spray paints, have poisonous gases in them. If you breathe too much, you can get very sick.
We didn't know.
Always read the label carefully and check for warnings before you start any job.
Wouldn't hurt to wear these masks either. Now we know.
And knowing is half the